Welcome to twoquestions.tv. I'm Susan Baroncini-Moe. Joining me today is Andrew Machota, an expert in the art of making friends. He's the founder and CEO of Newtown Connection. Hi, Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
My fellow Hoosier.
There we go. Go Indiana.
Yeah. All schools in Indiana.
Yes.
Just general Indiana. Well, I really liked your book, and I thought much needed in today's world. We are all so disconnected. And I thought your secret strategies were fascinating. And one of the things that you talked about in particular is that if you want to know if someone cares about you in, say, a networking situation, ask them a question and see if they ask you back. Like, where are you from? And then they go, I'm from Indiana. Where are you from? I've been in that situation probably more than 100 times.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I actually stopped going to networking groups because of that, because I would ask questions to get to know people and build relationships, and they would try to qualify me.
Yes.
Is there anything that we can do when we're in that kind of situation to shift people away from that qualifying mindset? Or at that point, is it kind of a lost cause?
It's very tricky in that when you go to networking events, that I'll say nine people out of 10, they have their own agendas, right? That they're there probably selling something, they need to meet people for work or whatever. So they're there, and that's their first question is, nice to meet you, what do you do?
Yeah.
And when I go do these teachings, I teach people how to network, how to meet people. I steer people, don't ask the what do you do question, because that's your way of dancing around that of,
yeah,
I want to get to know you as a person, not like, oh, you're a CPA, you're a lawyer, you're a banker, you're an entrepreneur. Because people, like, I still network all the time, and people qualify me based, like, I'm an entrepreneur, I run a social club, I wrote a book, or whatever.
Right.
So the trick there is just dance around that question. Like, they're going to ask you, what do you do? And if you don't want to be qualified, or you don't be put in a box that, you're an entrepreneur, or you're a doctor, or you're whatever.
Right.
My advice would be, come up with a different answer. That is, if you have a sense of humor, try to use humor to get around that. I have a friend, he tells people like he's a cat herder or sheep herder. I like to tell people that I'm a salsa dancer. So when you give people an out-of-the-box answer, it keeps them on their toes, because they're not expecting me to say, if I'm dressed like business professional, that I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm a professional salsa dancer. And people's heads turns are like, wait a minute, you're what? And so it freezes people in their line of questioning. It sparks their curiosity, and like that works for me, because I do dance and I can dance. So my advice there would be, try to find an answer that, if you have a sense of humor, use humor. Or come up with a different answer that is not like your profession. That if you are a CPA, or if you are a banker, or you do mortgages or whatever, don't just say, well, I'm a banker over at SunTrust Bank or whatever. Come up with something that fits your personality, and then play to that. Because then, again, if maybe you're a tennis player, maybe you like to volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. Maybe you like to do something that obviously is outside of what you do for work. And then that becomes a conversation starter. Like, oh, like, by the way, I'm a volunteer director at the Boys and Girls Club. And people are going to say, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, what do you do with the Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah.
And that's just going to start the conversation versus, hey, I'm a banker at, XYZ bank.
Yeah.
And once you say, like, I'm a banker at a big bank, people are going to qualify you that, oh, you're another banker. Great. Here we go.
It's funny. My husband is from Uruguay. And every time, the first time I went down there, I had a powerful realization. And every time I go back, it is reinforced again and again. And that is that no one asks, what do you do? Yeah. I have never been asked that in Uruguay. In the 10 years I've been going down there, I don't even know if it's his family really. I think they see what I do online, but I don't know if they really know what I do. Like, they know I wrote a book, and they were like, okay, but they don't know. They know a lot of other things about me, but they don't know what I do. And I think that it's because we identify one another in the Western world, and in America in particular, by what you do for a living. That is who you are. And I feel like there's so much more to us. Like, I'm taking up ice skating again tomorrow. So there are other things about us that we need to know.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, we're still human beings. And like I said, people like to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And I've learned through all these networking things I've done and picked up over the years, is that you get someone talking about things they're really interested in, which again, 9 times out of 10, that's not about working at a bank or working at a law firm or a CPA firm. That's just the job. That doesn't define me. It doesn't define you.
Right.
And that's what I've learned, is that you get people on these side tangents that tell me about your hobbies. Like, oh my gosh, you love to travel. You've been to South America. And you get down that line of questioning, and before I know it, we had a 10-minute conversation about your travels to South America, and you feel good about yourself because you've told me about your travels. I feel like I know you better than just who you are as like what you do for work. And then that's what really starts the relationship of, if we're going to do business, you got to be friends first versus me just handing out business cards and trying to work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, man, people get networking so wrong. It's just,
because the whole thing, like, and that's the point of my book is, I'm from Indiana. I've, went to IU. I went to business school. No, I never took a class on networking. I have not heard any class. I live here in Florida now, and I hang out with students and interns, whatever else. I don't think there's a class on networking 101. That's why I do these teachings of just help people, of especially the millennials today who were in their early 20s, that they grew up on technology, a phone, and they've never been taught like how to pick up a phone, make a phone call, and have a real conversation, not texting, tweeting, whatever, Instagram, Snapchat. So that's the whole point of that book, is to help people say, look, it's a 3.5-hour read, nice, easy read book.
It is, yeah.
Here's 18 steps or strategies on like how do you build those foundations of having a real relationship, because we all want it, but it's hard to get out of your comfort zone when you're so used to being dependent on technology.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked that 18-step process. And I also really liked that you had other questions that you can ask besides what do you do. I was taught, like when I teach, when I do a little training here and there on networking, I always teach people to say, what's your story? That's my favorite question. That's my go-to, is always, what's your story? And I let them tell me what's important to them. And I taught them, but you had some really like nice ones in here. What's your favorite question to ask in that kind of scenario?
So typically, it's always my go-to question. If we're at like I was at an event this morning, and there's 150 people in a room. It's a big networking event for breakfast this morning. So I'm trying to qualify people, like, who do they know here? Is it their first time? Who invited them? So usually I like to throw softball questions in the air, like things that people can grab onto. I'm like, oh yeah, like, who invited you? Is this your first event? Who invited you? I'm like, oh man, this is my first event. I'm friends with so-and-so. So, my go-to is more about the event in itself, like who, the what, when, how do you hear about it? Just because I'll get that mindset, like, okay, this person I'm talking to, it's their first event as well. Who invited them? You're like, oh my gosh, it was Sarah. And I'm like, oh, Sarah. Like, then again, it just starts that train of questioning where, oh, I'm friends with Sarah as well. And then how do you know Sarah and whatever else?
Exactly.
So for these networking events that most people go to with 100 people, I would start there, like, base your first line of questions about the event when you're talking to someone. Is it your first time? To qualify them, because if say it's their 10th time, they're like, oh my gosh, I come to this group all the time, I love it. If it's their 10th time and they love it, they're gonna help you, make you feel like you're at home,
right?
Because they want you to either like come back or join as a member or whatever. And if I frame it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's your 10th time, it's my first time, I don't know. And I frame it this way, I'm like, it's my first time, I don't know anyone else here, I saw it on Facebook or I saw the event, whatever. And I put that up in the air, and they hear that, they're like, oh my, it's your first time, you don't know anyone? And then, like, again, usually they're pretty nice about it, like, oh, well, maybe I can, introduce you to a few people. And if they don't introduce me to other people, I ask for an introduction. I was like, hey, I don't know anyone.
Who should I know?
Yeah, I was like, who should I know in the room? Like, this is my first time here. I'm excited. And who in this room should I talk to? And if they're really good, and like, again, if they've been there 9, 10 times, they should be excited to be there. They're like, oh yeah, you know what? You need to talk to Ashley, or you need to talk to Tim, or you need to talk to whoever.
Right.
And then just ask them for that introduction and say, well, hey, like, you said I should talk to Tim. Do you mind giving me an introduction to Tim since you know Tim? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. Let me introduce you to Tim. And then before you know it, you get an introduction to Tim, to Sarah, Ashley, whoever else. And now that first time at your event, you were nervous because you were by yourself, and you found someone who happens to be a regular, and you asked them for an introduction, and they just introduce you to 4 or 5 people in the group, and now you're no longer a lone ranger. You actually have people to talk to because that person there has been nice enough to give you an introduction. And it doesn't always work that way, but that's kind of I work the room to figure out who is a good person who has been to this event more than once. And or again, if you find someone else who's in the same boat as you have something in common. Now you're like, it's your first event, it's my first event, and then we can start the questionings from there.
Yeah, that's actually how I made one of my best friends. Is we went to a junior league event, and it was one of we were early in our careers in the event, in the group, and the line of questioning there is very similar. It's, why did you join? How long have you been a member? What have you done so far? And that kind of stuff. And you bond over the organization, and that you have that in common. And then you find out what other things you have in common. And it's very interesting. It's a good, these are good training things for people to be doing. So I'm going to give you a bonus round. I'm going rogue this time.
Watch out.
Okay, so let's say, because I feel like you're fundamentally likable, like you're a nice guy, and you're someone that people want to be friends with. Let's be honest. I already know this about you. Let's say that you're someone who doesn't feel like they have that innate quality. Maybe they're an introvert, they don't really feel comfortable in social settings, and they're waiting for their book to arrive. So got that, listeners and viewers? You're waiting for your book to arrive. All right, so they're waiting for their book to arrive. They don't have it yet. What are some of the things that, like, what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone to feel more comfortable and maybe perhaps come across as more likable?
So the first answer to your question is start small. I think a lot of people get in this misnotion that, I need to go to these huge events that have 100, 200 people. And even for me, like when I walk through that front door, if I don't know anyone there, I'm a super extrovert. Even for me, like I get nervous sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to take a deep breath, and I'm going to go through that door, and I'm going to go shake as many hands as possible.
Wow.
And I'm a super extrovert, so I know if I get nervous and going in front of a room of 200 people that I don't know, that if you're an introvert, you're going to look inside the room and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go back and I'm going home. So
I'm going to a movie.
Yeah, like, because a lot of, again, it is, social anxiety is a big deal today. And if you look at that room, you stick your head in, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many people. Everyone gets that notion, like everyone's already talking to each other. They're in their own conversation. I can't talk to anyone, and then I'm just going to go home because that's easy. So the answer there is start small. That there's no need to go to a 100-person event. And if you're really nervous, go to something that you like. Go find a meetup. Go find a group that, if you're into painting or if you're into volunteering, go volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club with 10 people, or go be a big brother or big sister, whatever it is. And through that, it's much easier to work in a group of 10 people that is not necessarily a networking event. And I always preach this too, that we all have this misconception that I really have to go networking. I got to network. But really, if you think about it, networking happens all the day, all the time. If I go to a lunch, I go to a coffee shop, I talk to someone, I introduce myself. And the second part of your question is how to make yourself more approachable. It's all in the face. Like, you gotta smile, you gotta be excited, have that energy of like, even if you're like, maybe you don't want to be there, but you kind of have to, if you can make it the best you can, like, okay, I'm like, you know what? Deep breath. I want to be here. You gotta psych yourself up. I want to be here. Because if you come there with little or no energy, and you're like, hi, nice to meet you, what do you do? And no eye contact and no smile, no one's going to want to talk to you. So I tell people, like, smile. And the hardest part too is people are like, well, how do I introduce myself? I train people to, like, look, stick your hand out and say, hi, I'm Andrew. And then like, when you stick your hand out, that's a natural reaction that other people, they're going to have to shake your hand. Otherwise it's really awkward.
Yeah.
So that's it. So stick your hand, like, just, have your hand up, like, be ready. Like, nice to meet you. I'm ready to go. It's a pleasure to see you. How's your day been? That's the easiest question of, like, again, nice to meet you. How's your day been? What's going on with you? Or whatever. Just easiest conversation starter. How's your day been? And to get the conversation going versus, again, the what do you do stuff. And it's just, again, start small, find things that you're interested in. If I'm hanging out in a group that likes to, again, play volleyball or salsa dance, if I go salsa dancing tonight with 20 people in a group, they have their own Tuesday night salsa dance class. I already know I'm in a room with other people who like to do what I do, and it's salsa dancing, so we're dancing, but I'm still talking to people.
Right.
And they're still going to ask me like, oh, so Andrew, like, what do you do? And whatever. And it's not a networking event. We're salsa dancing, but every day people are always going to ask you, what do you do? That's right. It's part of life. So start small, do something you enjoy doing. You'll be happier because you enjoy to salsa dance or volunteer or whatever. You got to smile. You got to find that energy that fits you. And again, if you're having an off day and you're like this, if you're negative and you don't want to go out and talk to people today because you had a bad day, then I'd probably say just go home and don't go out. Like, if you had a bad day and you're like, there's some days I don't want to talk to people, but it's really hard to have a real conversation and pleasant when you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't hurt to take a day off. You know what? I need to recenter myself and so what? I missed an event today, but you know what? There's another event tomorrow. It's fine. I'll get back out there tomorrow.
There's always another event, right?
Every single day. I mean, I live in Tampa, Florida. There's plenty of stuff here. Like whatever city your audience is at. As long as you don't live in a farm. I'm from farm town of 500 people. If you're in a farm town, that's different. But if you're in like even a smaller city like South Bend or Fort Wayne or whatever, I'm sure there's stuff to do every day. You just have to find it. Maybe do a little bit more homework to find those events.
Indeed. Andrew, so interesting and so valuable in our disconnected world. Thank you for being on the show today.
You're welcome. And I'll leave it at this is anyone else from Indiana understands that my book is about Hoosier hospitality, and that if you treat other people like you want to be treated, nice, respectful manner, you introduce yourself, you talk to your neighbors, say hi. You'll do great out there talking to people. Just have that conversation, shake some hands, smile, and introduce yourself. Say hi, I'm Andrew. My go-to pickup line is, hi, I'm Andrew. Nice to meet you. Like
that's a good one.
That's not a pickup line. That's just my introduction. Is I stick my hand out, I smile, I say hi. It's a pleasure to see you, or it's nice to meet you, and take it from there. So don't be afraid to shake hands and smile.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on this show today.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, viewers, here's the book. We're going to have links down below in the show notes. And for listeners on the podcast, they'll be in your show notes too. So thanks for watching. Please join us in the after show. We're going to be on for a few more minutes on the website at twoquestions.tv. So you can find the after show there. We'll be dropping a few more tips there. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.